We're Jeff and Lisa, and during the 2020 quarantine, we did something we thought was only a dream. We bought a Sprinter van and converted it into the ultimate road trip vehicle. On this channel, we share our van life experience, including van build how-tos, tips, hacks, and product reviews, plus van travel and lifestyle. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. Lisa's off to Disney World with some of our grandkids for a week, so MJ and I headed south to see if we could hit 5 national parks in 3 days. First, we're going to make the 3.5-hour drive to St. George and spend the night. The next morning, we'll make the short drive to Zion, and then after Zion, we'll head to Bryce Canyon National Park. That should put us to Bryce right around sunset, where we'll watch the sunset and then make the 2-hour drive to Capitol Reef, and we'll camp just outside of Capitol Reef for the night. We'll get up the next morning and spend a few hours in Capitol Reef National Park, and then we'll make the 75-mile drive to Moab, where we'll check out Canyonlands and Arches National Parks. And then we'll head back home. And there you have it, 5 parks, 3 days, only in Utah. After spending the night in the Walmart parking lot in St. George, we headed to Zion. So this is day 1 of 5 parks in 3 days. Hitting Zion first. If you want huge, majestic red rock cliffs, then Zion is the place. We first took the scenic drive up Zion Canyon to the Temple of Sinawava. Then we headed back down the canyon and onto the Mount Carmel Highway and through the Mount Carmel Tunnel to the east entrance of the park. One of the things I love about traveling in a van is that whenever I get hungry, I can just pull over and make something to eat. This oatmeal is like one of my favorite meals. I do intermittent fasting, so I don't eat until about noon or 1 o'clock every day. And all morning long, I'm looking forward to my oatmeal. And what better place to have it than here? Isn't this view amazing? So I'm just about to the east entrance of Zion. I'm going to go out of there and then I'm going to head to Bryce Canyon. We left through the east entrance of Zion and headed towards Bryce, which is about 75 miles away. About 15 or 20 miles from Bryce, you enter the Dixie National Forest, and the intensity of the red rocks is just really amazing. You pass through the little town of Bryce, where the famous Ruby's Diner is located, and then you enter the park. Bryce is known for these interesting structures in the rock called hoodoos. The rim of Bryce Canyon is about 8,000 feet, so it's pretty cold, quite a bit colder than Zion. Here you can see the hoodoos. These are formed from the frost and steam erosion on the rocks. I'm a little bit winded. I just ran up the hill. I always try to time my trip so that I'm in Red Rock country at the golden hour. It really is the best time, as this is the sun setting in maybe another 10 or 15 minutes. And really the light on these rocks is just amazing. And it really is the best time to capture Red Rock country. So it's been like 40 years since I was at Bryce Canyon. Used to come here almost every summer with my family. My dad loved the outdoors and used to do a lot of photography, and that's probably where I got my love for photography. But you know, coming here as a kid and coming here as an adult is a completely different thing. I can really appreciate it a lot more. What I've really noticed on this trip is, you know, you think of southern Utah as Red Rock country, but every park is so different. And you know, the big majestic cliffs of Zion, and then these pillars here in Bryce, you know, they're all very, very different and each amazing in their own way. We were treated to a beautiful sunset, and I got some great still shots during the golden hour. After Bryce, I headed towards Capitol Reef and planned on camping just outside of the park. I used an app called iOverlander, and it showed a place that was
really turned out to be a great spot. It's on BLM land and free camping, and there was only one other camper in the area, so I felt like I had the whole place to myself. Then I headed the next morning into Capitol Reef. Capitol Reef reminded me of a smaller Zion, maybe 50 years ago, before the big crowds, before the development. It's really pretty. It's mostly dirt roads. Not too rough, so my two-wheel drive vehicle was fine there. But you can see, it's a little bit rustic. MJ didn't love the dirt roads too much. When I got out of the van to check things out, MJ was very concerned for my safety. After spending a few hours in Capitol Reef, we made the short 75-mile drive to Moab. If you ever want a really cool experience, check out the Sunset Grill up on the bluff above Moab. Food's decent, but amazing views. After getting some gas and a Diet Coke, it was time to find a place to stay for the night. There's a canyon off to the west of Moab that I've seen before but never been there, so I decided to go check it out and see if there's a place to camp. And just about a mile up the road, there was a great little campground on BLM land where you can stay for $20 a night. It's right on the Colorado River, and while I'm sure it's very busy during the spring and summer and fall, there were only like 2 other campers there when I was there. I wanted to hit Canyonlands for sunset, and so I had a couple of hours to kill, so I flew the drone around and explored the area. Then I headed out for the 30-minute drive to Canyonlands. I got there about an hour before sunset, so I decided to stop by Mesa Arch and check that out.
So I'm just hiking up to the Mesa Arch, and it's a short hike. I think it's less than a mile. So one thing about Mesa Arch is it's not nearly as tall and majestic as like some of the arches in Arches National Park, but then behind it, it's a sheer drop off. So you can get right up to it and underneath the arch, and then it just drops right off. So yeah, the arch from this side, it's cool, but it doesn't seem like that much. And then you walk up to the edge, look over, you can see the drop. Yeah, so there it is. Like I said, it's a short little hike, maybe 5 minutes, and kind of cool.
Then I headed over to Green River Overlook, which is just about 5 minutes from Mesa Arch, and it's one of the better spots to watch the sunset because you look out to the west over the canyon towards the setting sun. Perfect timing. Got here just about 10 minutes before the sunset. The lighting was really good. Everything was just glowing. And as the sun was setting, I just left my video camera on the tripod and took some still shots from different angles, looking out over the canyon. Then I just headed back to Moab to grab some dinner and get back to the campsite. I've never done sunrise at Arches, and I'm not really a morning person, but since it's winter, sunrise wasn't until 7:23, so I decided I'd get up at about 6:30, make the short drive into Arches, and get some pictures of the sunrise and the golden hour. After the sunrise, I took a couple of quick little hikes. First, I went to Skyline Arch, and then I went up to Devil's Garden. We had to make a quick pit stop for MJ, and then I took a little hike around the Devil's Garden area. There's 3 or 4 pretty cool arches in that area. but it was only about 18 degrees out, and MJ was waiting for me back in the car, so I checked things out real quick, and then we got back on the road. Arches really does feel like you're on a different planet, and as you drive through it, all of these formations just rising up all around you. Then I made one last stop at the Park Avenue Trail. This is a kind of a canyon that's really cool looking, and the lighting was really good, so I just stopped by there to check it out. There were some rock climbers climbing there, and then I got back on the road to head home. And you can see here the line to get into the park. When I went in at 6:45, there was nobody there. I drove right through, and now you can see there's quite a wait to get in. It was a quick trip. We covered a lot of ground in 3 days, and it might have been just a little bit too much for MJ.
So if you're liking this video, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps us out. And I want to share with you my thoughts on hitting 5 parks in 3 days. But before I do that, let me ask you a question. Out of the different parks that I've traveled to and shown you, which one would you like to travel to the most? Drop it in the comments. I think that hitting 5 parks in Utah in 3 days is not a hard thing to do at all. Most of the parks do not allow dogs on the trails, and so I didn't leave the car. I didn't want to leave her in the car for more than half an hour at a time. So I didn't do any of the longer hikes. If you're going to do longer hikes, you might want to make more time. I'd probably plan 4 or 5 days, maybe almost a day in each park. You can definitely hit Canyonlands and Arches in the same day. They're really close together, like maybe 30 minutes apart. I also suggest if you're in the Moab area, hit Dead Horse Point as well. Dead Horse Point, I didn't go on this trip, but it's a state park, Utah State Park, and it is my favorite park for sunsets. The view is amazing, and the sunsets are just spectacular. It's similar to Canyonlands, but I just think from the viewpoints, what you can see from the viewpoints is a lot more interesting from Dead Horse Point. So if you want to hit a sunset, Dead Horse Point is the best one, I think, in Moab. Sunrise, I think Arches is the best. Arches is probably my favorite park out of the 5. I didn't hit Delicate Arch on this trip because I had the dog, and I didn't. It's probably a 2.5 hour round trip, and that's just a little too long for me to leave her in the car. But it's a great little hike. It's not difficult at all, but it really is my favorite hike, and my favorite thing in Arches is Delicate Arch. So anyway, this trip has been about 1,000 miles in total. About half of that is traveling from where I live in northern Utah down to southern Utah and back. Really, that's the longest part of the travel. The time driving from park to park ranges between about 30 minutes to 2 hours at the most. So really, once you're in southern Utah, driving from park to park is really not a big deal. Now, this is the first time that I've ever been to the southern Utah national parks in winter. And even though it's southern Utah, it still gets pretty cold, especially at night. The nights were in the teens and 20s in most of the places that I stayed. But having a heater in the van is vital. I have a diesel heater that taps right into my diesel fuel tank. So it uses very low power and doesn't use very much diesel either. But it'll keep the van as toasty warm as I want. I set it to about 70 and it stays right there. So it's very warm in the van when you have the heater running. Zion, Bryce, and Arches and Canyonlands are just packed in the summer, and the towns around them as well. But in the winter, there are some things closed down. Some of the trails, some of the campgrounds are closed down, but there's still plenty of availability in the winter and far fewer people. My favorite area of southern Utah is really Moab. I love the town. It's a unique town. It has lots of unique restaurants. Doesn't have so many of the chain restaurants, but has lots of unique little grills and pubs. And
microbreweries and things like that that have great food, lots of hiking, lots to do, lots of outdoor activities, mountain biking, hiking, off-roading. It really has the best of everything. So that's my favorite. Drop a comment and let me know which one is your favorite. If you haven't been to these parks, let me know which one you want to go to the most. And I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.